to start off our week. Being dark on Monday sometimes can yield a couple of good things. One of them is you let the chaos settle until you can make some rational judgments on the events you have observed and keep the emotional aspect of things to a minimum. Now, while Mark Cuban is talking about running for president, maybe he and Zuckerberg could run the same ticket. The retard ticket, maybe. Let's see, the Democrats have been caught red-handed, along with their Teamster bedfellows, deliberately stacking up their trucks and not delivering the needed supplies in an effort to make Mr. Trump look like he's not handling the crisis in Puerto Rico properly. So these people are so small-minded, petty, cowardly, dishonest. There's a bunch more, but why bother? That'll cover it for now. That they would actually let these people in Puerto Rico suffer so that they can advance their stupid agenda, the loser agenda, the parrot agenda, P-A-R-R-O-T. They just repeat and repeat and repeat, right? In the meantime, here comes the savage slaying of over 50 people with over 500 wounded by a single gunman. Well, I'll tell you right now at the beginning of the program, I think it's a bunch of Bravo Sierra. I think this is an op from top to bottom. And we will get to the bottom of things. We will. And there are some people out there that know damn well we will. This is from Your News Wire. Listen up. This is important. I'm going to try to pronounce the writer's name. Sean Adi Tabatabai. 4chan user warned about Vegas attack on September 11th. 3 weeks ago, on the 16th anniversary of 9/11, a 4chan user predicted the Las Vegas shooting in a series of mysterious posts. The user, who went by the username John, made a series of posts warning users to stay away from large groups of people in and around the Las Vegas Strip area in the coming weeks. Squawker.org reports, stating that he had insider knowledge of what he referred to as a high-incident project. I guess that's HIP for short. That was set to occur. Here's what he posted. Look, I feel bad for some of you on this website, so I'll let you in on a little secret. If you live in Las Vegas or Henderson, stay inside tomorrow. Don't go anywhere where there are large groups of people. Also, if you see 3 black vans parked next to each other, immediately leave the area. Signed, John. Next one. It's called the High Incident Project. They want to make the American public think that places with extremely high security are not safe. They are trying to create more regulations. You will see laws proposed within the next few years to put up more metal detectors and other security devices. Media and politicians will be saying places with lots of police need even more police. I can't guarantee anything will happen tomorrow, but Las Vegas is on their minds. Now, both of those posts occurred on Monday, September 11th. While the poster was ignored at the time, since nothing seemed to occur on the 12th of September, the fact is, John wrote, I can't guarantee anything will happen tomorrow, but Las Vegas is on their minds. It seems a little frightening now. Just a few weeks later, the largest mass shooting in American history occurred at the very location that he named. Even if we consider the idea there could be any truth to such a plot in the first place, it's not unreasonable to believe the organizers could have simply adjusted the schedule by a few weeks. You bet. Because they did not foresee the hurricane. You know, the one Mr. Trump's not handling correctly. The one that, I repeat, the Democrats and their Teamster bedfellows are trying to make worse by restricting distribution of needed supplies to the devastated area. I'm using the word devastated. They're restricting the distribution of those needed things like water, food, batteries, stuff like that, in an effort to make Mr. Trump look as bad as possible. This is what kind of scum the left is. I'm using the word scum. You need to embrace that term. These are not nice people. These are not people who deserve to have some slack cut for them, or to be understanding, or to recognize their point of view. These bastards are nothing but a bunch of murder and trash straight out of hell. Rush Limbaugh brought a woman on his program yesterday. That would be Monday. And allowed her to speak. And Rush responded to her by saying, so you're saying if you live in the South, you like country music, and you're a conservative, you're just bad news. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Well, thank you very much for coming on the program. That's what these idiots think. They think because we want freedom and are willing to be responsible for it, oh, that makes us bad. Because what they want is what? Cops, more cops, militarized police, higher taxes, and an unchecked influx of migrants. This is all planned. And in the next few days and weeks and months, all will be revealed. Let's go back to the article for a minute. Here's another post on September 11. If their plan is successful, state of Nevada will pass a law in the future making all casinos have mandatory metal detectors and backscatter machines. Soon after, a federal law will be passed to put these machines in universities, high schools, federal buildings, you name it. OSI Systems and Chertoff, remember that name? Chertoff? Are the main producers of these machines. Sometime around 2020, now that's not very far off, Chertoff and OSI will merge into a single company. After they merge, the owners will sell off all their stock and make billions in profit. Chertoff has been in contact with Sheldon Adelson. Mr. Adelson will become a huge sponsor of these machines, and he'll be the first to put them in his casinos when the law passes. This is my last message for now. Don't expect me to return anytime soon. He states this project will be done with an endgame goal of passing new laws in Nevada regarding casino security, making pricey new security screening machines mandatory for all guests to be subjected to, with even further and more ambitious plans to follow suit with our schools and other public buildings, if the public goes along with the machines of casinos easily, okay? He also specifically names former head of the Department of Homeland Security, Michael Chertoff, and casino owner and billionaire Sheldon Adelson as the two men set to profit the most off of this wave of new regulations set to spring up in response to the Vegas incident. It's not that unreasonable even to believe that Mr. Chertoff might seek to profit from a new security panic in the wake of Vegas, given that the man has already been accused of abusing the public trust by raising security fears among average Americans in an attempt to sell his company's body scanners before. This goes all the way back to 2010. And while the media paints the shooter, Stephen Paddock, as a lone wolf type and seems mystified over the possible motivations for a man who the media and the FBI at least keep claiming had no religious or strong political ideologies. A new theory has now emerged in the wake of the revelations aforementioned, with new information now breaking that the shooter was a rather active Vegas gambler with recent large transactions done in his name. Could Stephen have simply been threatened into doing this horrible act by some third party in the name of paying off some possible large gambling debts, maybe to some mafia types? You never know, really. Do you? I mean, do you really? Who runs Vegas? Who runs Nevada? 89%. I thought it was 86, but it's not. It's 89% of the real estate is controlled by the federal government. And this is a place where prostitution and gambling are legal. And I repeat, the feds control 89% of the state of Nevada. 89%. If Stephen was not acting of his own accord, then a number of these seemingly unexplained parts to this whole story start making a lot of sense, don't they? Even if this is one giant coincidence, the fact remains people like Chertoff and those behind similar companies stand to profit nicely in the months to come from the new security panic this incident will most likely produce, particularly among the Democrats, the leftists, the Marxists, and the communists who couldn't even wait for the bodies to cool before they began screaming for gun control. This trash must be stopped. Do you understand? Look, if I were to say to you, What the hell do you think you're doing? You see these Islamic morons cutting people's heads off, raping women, raping girls, putting young girls, preteens, illegal jailbait age girls into grooming. Oh, they want to groom them. They're beginning to teach primary school students to get used to the idea of polygamy. They're wanting to take AD and BC off the dates. No, they want Common Era and before Common Era. These people must be stopped. And I mean stopped. I don't mean delayed. They must be stopped. Who was blowing up the federal buildings and federal property, causing mayhem back in the 60s? Bill Ayers is where they're underground. Were they right wing or left wing? Who did the Muslim Brotherhood affiliate with back in the World War II days? Let me think. I know. The Nazis. Who did the United States government bring over here to run everything from the rocket programs to the intelligence services? Nazis. But you're a right-wing Nazi because these people are liars. They don't understand National Socialist Workers' Party. So if I were to say, what the hell is the matter with you? What do you think you are doing? What do you think your government is doing to you? What do you think they have planned for you? Why? Tell me one good reason why you would admit countless millions of people from a prehistoric, practically Mohammedan culture to come into Western civilization and wreak the havoc they have wreaked. Why would you do this? Are you stupid? Are you drugged? Are you indoctrinated? Are you just worn down? Is it just too hard? Oh, don't want no Jesus. But they'd kiss Mohammed's ass if they could. What's the matter with these people? What's the matter with these people? Are they mentally ill? Decidedly so. Are they evil? Without a doubt. Now, while this is going on, we have this disgusting scumbag of a so-called journalist named Charles Pierce, an Esquire columnist, who immediately after the shootings penned a column entitled, "If Newtown wasn't enough, why would Las Vegas be enough? Our leaders are afraid to tolerate limits on Second Amendment freedoms." Well, we tolerate people like you. You have a First Amendment protection. As far as I'm concerned, you should have your mouths pierced with great big, like canvas needles, and sewn shut. That's what should happen to those on the left. And in the case of this writer, Charles Pierce, I don't know. You know, if we removed your thumbs, you could still type on your keyboard with your little middle fingers. Folks, I know this is dangerous language, but I'll guarantee you if I get blowback for this, number one, I don't care. And number two, the reason I don't care is because it will be very instructive as to why my making comments like the aforementioned, the foregoing, oh, no bueno. But these people can do whatever they want. Yes, I've thought a lot about blowing up the White House, that loser, that worn-out old bag, Madonna, who was pathetic at best when she was younger in the 80s, and now is just an old slag. Yes, I'm angry. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so mad about this, I could spit fire. The Constitution is not a pact with the devil, Mr. Pierce, Charles Pierce, P-I-E-R-C-E, goes on to write, nor is it a suicide pact. It is a formalized, legalistic ritual of blood sacrifice. The massacre of country music fans is the 273rd blood sacrifice to that one provision of the Constitution this year. This makes Paddock's unfortunate exercise of his Second Amendment freedoms the deadliest mass shooting in history. Paddock came well prepared to exercise his Second Amendment freedoms on a penned-in crowd of Jason Aldean fans, and he did. Yeah. Well, you're a loser, Charles Pierce, and that's my opinion, and you're welcome to sue me. Because if you do, I'm going to drag you into the courtroom before I depose you, and you're going to rat yourself out for all your affiliations and all the Sierra Hotel India Tango that you've done in your life. I and my lawyers will make sure of this. So bring it. Fool. Only a fool would write something like that. Murdering people is not exercising Second Amendment rights. Fool. Ah, do not call your brother a fool. This is not my brother. This is the son of his father, the devil, the father of lies. That's exactly who this guy is. Who paid you, Charles? Who paid you? Which teat are you sucking on, Charles? Pathetic excuse for a journalist, and an even more pathetic excuse for a human being. Now, here's something from John Rappaport. Las Vegas mass shooting, more than one shooter? Well, duh, yeah. I put that part in. This is my second report of the tragic mass murder in Las Vegas on Sunday night. I'm looking at a Getty image of two broken windows, claimed to be on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel, where the shooter purportedly fired an automatic weapon or weapons at concert goers. I count 10 intact windows going around a corner of the building between the two broken ones. These broken windows are from the same hotel room? That's questionable and worth checking. If the windows are from two adjacent rooms, it suggests the likelihood of more than one shooter. Yep. Las Vegas police scanner audio on first call out to the hotel records an officer emphatically saying the shots are coming from halfway up the hotel. The hotel has 43 stories. The 32nd floor is where police claim they found shooter Stephen Paddock's dead body and his cache of weapons. Perhaps the police officer was estimating when he said halfway up. If not, he was seeing shots fired from lower in the hotel. That would suggest the possibility of multiple shooters on different floors. The latest estimate, 58 dead, 515 injured. It's expected that more dead and wounded will be reported. Now, Variety.com states the shooting rampage that police have said lasted about 4.5 minutes. Do you know, earlier reports said 72 minutes. Okay. 515 wounded, 58 killed in 4.5 minutes. That would come out to an average of one person killed or injured every 2.1 seconds. The question arises, how likely is it that one person, particularly Stephen Paddock, was the shooter? Since according to his brother, Stephen was, quote, not an avid gun guy at all. He has no military background or anything like that. John Rappaport writes, I've still not seen a definitive statement about what kind of auto weapon, or weapons, S in parentheses, Paddock was supposedly using. One television commenter mentioned it would have been very, very expensive. Well, that's for sure. They're getting 20 grand for an M16 right now. 40 grand for an M14. It's off the charts. A gambler could afford that. Yeah, but you got to go through the registration process for that. It takes a while. It can take a year, seriously, to get your paperwork back. Not likely. Initial reports of more than one shooter were quickly dismissed this morning. The possibility of more than one professional shooter is real, and Paddock is not a candidate whose apparent lack of experience and background makes him an immediate choice. These are the questions, not the conclusions, and they should remain open questions in distinction to mainstream news, which has, as usual, gone along with blinders, taking dictation from law enforcement. One shooter, dead, case closed. Thank you, John Rappaport. Now, from the Washington Standard, Tim Brown wrote this one. We've been told that police have cleared Paddock's girlfriend, Mary Lou Danley, in the shooting, claiming she's out of the country, but would not say where. Now, how are we to believe that she's cleared? They spoke to her on the phone, for goodness sake. Okay. We know the FBI, which has allegedly been investigating Russian involvement in America's elections for months, and Donald Trump, on top of that, has been assisting in the case. and can't seem to clear anyone on any of that in the short amount of time this clearing of Miss Danley could be accomplished. Even though she's been cleared, investigators still want to speak to her when she returns, according to the Reno Gazette-Journal. She's apparently in the Philippines, according to a friend. The Philippines. Why the Philippines? Oh, I guess you can go where you want, right? It's convenient that a woman that has allegedly been living with Mr. Paddock in her house and drives her cars was out of the country when this took place, and that investigators are willing to clear her based on a phone conversation. DailyMail.co.uk reports records show that Danley and Paddock lived together in a 3-year-old 2-bedroom home on Babbling Brook Court in the tiny desert community of Mesquite, which is 80 miles northeast of Las Vegas near the Arizona state border. Records show the property cost $396,000. Even more interesting is that the Reno Gazette-Journal reported Danley was previously married to Gary Danley, who now lives in Arkansas. That's Geary, so maybe it's Geary. Hi, Geary. Geary Danley, who now lives in Arkansas, married in Las Vegas in 1990, according to Washoe County records. The former couple jointly filed for divorce on February 25, 2015. The divorce was finalized the next day. During her divorce, Mary Lou Danley listed a downtown Reno unit at the Montage on Sierra Street as her address. At the time, the unit was owned by shooting suspect Stephen Paddock. Court records indicated she started living at the address in August 2013. Paddock sold the condominium in December 2016. The Reno Gazette-Journal talked to 2 people who were connected to Danley. Both were associated with the person listed in divorce records as Danley's witness. When the newspaper called the divorce witness's business, a man who did not give his name expressed anger when asked about Danley's relationship to Paddock. She had nothing to do with this psycho, the man said of Danley. The poor lady, she's in the Philippines visiting family. Another man answered the door at the divorce witness's home. The man also did not give his name, gasped when informed Danley knew Paddock. He said Danley's friend had been in contact with her in recent days but wouldn't share further details. These people are surprised she knew Paddock, but she was living with him. Also, consider the fact that Paddock had, quote, used Danley's slot card to gamble in the hotel, and that he was in Las Vegas for 3 days prior to Sunday's shooting. Does any of this sound like bizarre behavior not only on the part of Paddock, but also on the part of Danley? Eric Paddock told CBS News that Danley was his brother's girlfriend and that he had met her 3 to 4 times. So three to four times. So I guess he met her 3.5 times. Okay. They might have got married, but I don't think they're married. She's just his girlfriend, Eric said. She's a nice lady. I've met her 3 or 4 times. She's got a Facebook page. She sends my mom cookies. Still, there were reports that he was going through a divorce, but it was unclear if the divorce was with another woman or Danley. Now, consider that, as I suspected previously, an FBI source is claiming that Paddock was found with Antifa literature and photos taken in the Middle East. So, was the Las Vegas shooter the victim of suicide, or was he killed by an FBI hostage rescue team, which also found Antifa literature in his hotel room? The FBI team took the suspect out after he opened fire on them, according to the source, and afterwards the team found photos taken in the Middle East of a woman linked to the suspect. Mark that, the FBI team took the suspect out. What, for dinner or what? Took the suspect out. Oh, groovy terminology. After he opened fire on them. So they waited for him to shoot first, like Matt Dillon. Pow, pow, right? Fair and square. And afterwards, the team found photos taken in the Middle East of a woman linked to the suspect, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock. A police scanner transcript from the Daily Mail collaborates with the source's revelation. How about corroborates? That work? They invented the language over there, but nobody seems to speak it. Control, copy. All units on 32nd floor. SWAT has explosive breach. Everyone in the hallway needs to move back. All units move back. Officer, breach, breach, breach. Gunshot. Fifth officer, inaudible. We have one suspect down. Control. We need the air clear for Zebra 20. They have one suspect down inside the room, and Zebra 20 has one suspect down inside the room. And Daily Mail reported 2 on-duty Las Vegas police officers who engaged the shooter have been hospitalized. One of the officers was critically injured, but is now in stable condition after undergoing surgery. The other officer suffered minor injuries. Neither have been identified. 2 officers with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department were also injured. They were deputies. One is in critical condition and the other is in stable condition. Their names have not been released either. Now, supposedly, some deep-level intelligence insider said the attack was very, very strange, adding that it had all the fingerprints of a false flag. According to the source, this was an average 64-year-old white male with no criminal record. He was an apartment owner with a pilot's license, and he owned 2 airplanes. His brother described him as an average person who's never been into firearms, never owned that many guns. He claimed he just snapped. His hotel room was filled with guns, including several long guns. Where'd those guns come from? But this was clearly a pre-planned attack, and the group, the target, was specifically chosen. The target was a consort of the group that represents traditional America. Now, you know, of course, that ISIS is doing that moronic Mohammedan crap they do, claiming responsibility. I'm not going to say that they're not responsible, because I still say that ISIS is us. Now, you know, we brought several guests on the Caravan to Midnight that they have to disagree that, you know, ISIS is really us. Maybe they have to disagree. What are they going to say? John, you're absolutely right. It's been a scam the whole time. Military men, people inside the intelligence community, you know, people like that, they're not going to go out on the clothesline like that. Would you expect them to? Always listen to what's not being said. Always look at everything in the mirror image of what's being presented to you. It's all about power and control. Ladies and gentlemen, please, what is the nature of the power? Come on. Money. It's always about the money. Always. Always about the money. These were patriotic, God-fearing Americans. This group is pro-Second Amendment, pro-Constitution, anti-NWO. This is the group Obama accused of clinging to their guns and religion. Can't argue with it a bit. We're still awaiting all the facts, but the concern is we have seen the government engage in false flag events in the past. An example of this is CI Operation Gladio in Italy. As I examined the 9/11 attacks, I was forced to reach the conclusion that it was more than just a terrorist attack. It has fingerprints of a possible false flag event itself. That's a dramatic conclusion and one that most Americans cannot get their minds around. It's just too shocking. But we can be sure that this incident will increase the shadow government's surveillance state's reach. And most assuredly inside the United States, right? Because we're the freest country in the world. Gun-wise, we're not free in any other department. They've got our privacy. They've got our bank accounts. They have our names. They have our backsides, right? But they have not managed to take our guns. Do not let them take our guns. Did you know that the Nazis hosed down with lead from the MG-34 machine gun, 1,200 rounds per minute of 8mm deer rifle ammo? It wasn't intended for deer, really. Killed 10,000 of them and just dumped their bodies in a hole. You're throwing up over 50-some-odd people and 500-something wounded. How about 10,000 chopped up in a manner you cannot possibly imagine unless you've seen it? And by the way, in the coming weeks and months, you're going to see it. We're going to study the blueprint for what is damned well going to happen in this country if you do not stop it. I can talk about it from now until hell freezes over. Won't accomplish a thing unless it informs enough people and alarms enough people to take action. Because if you don't take action, this country is done. To a crisp. Do I want this? No. Well, what would you talk about if you couldn't talk about all these conspiracy theories? Lots of stuff. And they're not conspiracy theories. It's lie detection. You and I would do time, hard time, probably in D block, high security, solitary, for what these people do every day. Every day. You're living in a matrix, all right. But that matrix is about to be cracked. I'll finish with this. The Islamic State took credit for the attack. And then, because they just can't get enough of using cutesy little expressions of the day, they doubled down on it, leading us to conclude they know there's no real tie to Paddock. And Paddock has no real tie to white supremacy or any neo-Nazi group. So is it Antifa, the Islamic State, or something and someone else? Even more interesting is that the police said that Paddock used Danley's ID to check into the Mandalay Bay Hotel, even though she was outside the country and is not suspected of being a part of what took place. What hotel lets you check in with somebody else's ID? Listen to me. The police said Paddock used Danley's ID to check into the Mandalay Bay Hotel, even though she was outside the country, and is not suspected of being a part of what took place. I ask again, what hotel lets you check in with someone else's identification? Answer, 0. And they're sure as hell not going to do it in Las Vegas. There's too much dough involved, too many opportunities for morons to try and steal some of that money. Eric Paddock, the shooter's brother, told CBS News that Stephen was not an avid gun guy at all. Quote, the fact that he had those kind of weapons is just, where the hell did he get automatic weapons? He has no military background or anything like that, Eric Paddock said. He's a guy who lived in a house in Mesquite and drove down and gambled in Las Vegas. The problem's not with a man having guns or lots of ammo. The problem is not even that he had automatic weapons. The question is, how did he obtain them? Or were they planted at the scene? Now the moron idiots are talking about the bump stock. Well, a bump stock, it's just, they've had all kinds of things. I mean, look, there's a way that you can take a piece of string on a certain rifle. I'm not going to tell you what rifle it is. But from the cocking handle around the stock and up to the trigger, and the operation of the bolt will pull the string and pull the trigger. It'll go right until the string breaks, which it will eventually, unless it's nylon or something. And this bump stock, crude. They even have little cranks, that you can like put onto your trigger guard with like a little 4-leaf clover looking thing, go like that. Stupid. It takes about a machinist about 5 minutes to make an auto sear for an AR-15. And some of the M4s that are out there, they're labeled M4, which is the current version of the M16. Well, some of those things will go pop up when you shoot them because it's a military rifle, but Colt has been having financial troubles. So they just made them into self-loading rifles, known usually as semi-automatics. They're semi-automatic because you got to use your finger. You got to use your finger when they're automatic. It's an SLR. It's a self-loading rifle. It just loads itself with every shot. That's all. Makes it ready for the next shot. Well, some of those will get a little tricky every once in a while. In fact, some of the M1As will do it too. Somebody that I know went to the range and started indoor range too, and shot down range, and the thing dumped the whole magazine. Just went. I said, "What'd you do?" He said, "I just looked at everybody, put the rifle in its case, and left. Nobody said a damn thing." So they're not magic; they're just machines. Okay, last thing. The father of the suspect behind Sunday's night's massacre in Las Vegas were on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitive lists In 1968, after escaping from a Texas prison that same year, Benjamin Paddock been sentenced to 20 years in the federal correction facility in La Tuna, Texas, about 20 miles north of El Paso. Ooh, bleak. After robbing a Valley National Bank in Phoenix in 1960, according to a 1971 story in the now shuttered Tucson Daily Citizen. Folks, I hate to tell you this, but it's happening again. It's an operation. Look at it from the standpoint that it is an operation until it's proven that it's not an operation. Why did it go on so long? Why didn't the whole arena empty out? Were the exits blocked? And what's up with this John guy who went to posting that 4chan reported? They got their eye on Las Vegas. Well, I'll tell you something. We have a source too. And our source said that Las Vegas was definitely on the list. This information is somewhat old. So Las Vegas has always kind of been on the list. Kim Jong-un put Austin on the list. But when we have sources that tell us things like, Dallas and Las Vegas are on the list. This is the worst mass shooting in American history. Okay? So if you were going to stage a false flag, why wouldn't you stage it in a town that never sleeps? Lots of entertainment, lots of people, lots of crowds, and the government controls 89% of the real estate there. And things that are criminal in other parts of the country, such as gambling and prostitution, are legal there. Let's speak with the inimitable Michael Thompson from WND, a venerable organization, a bastion of accuracy, dogged determination, and frankly, truth. Michael Thompson of WND, I'm wondering what he's thinking. So let's see if he'll let us in on what he's thinking. Michael, how you doing?
John, I'm doing fantastic. I happened to not be able to sleep the other night, and I went downstairs and jumped online, and I saw this news story breaking on Twitter, and I thought to myself, that's not a reputable site. This can't be real. This seems like fake news. Went to sleep and woke up the next morning, drove to our offices here right outside of Washington, D.C., and 50 plus people had been murdered, and 500 plus people had been shot or hurt and injured in the trampling at this horrific, nightmarish shooting in Las Vegas.
I'm just wondering. I got to tell you, Michael, right out of the chute, I don't buy it. I don't buy one shooter. I look at that guy's face. I don't buy it. This guy does not look like he's capable of doing this thing. For starters. Now you're going, what's your secret? How can you figure something like that? Well, I can't, but I've done pretty well on intuition alone. This guy does not have the look, and especially he does not have the eyes, which are very telltale. And anybody who's been to a prison or mental institution, you look at the eyes, you can tell. I mean, it's only the really, really serious, hardcore psychopaths that you can't tell. They look unnaturally healthy, juxtaposed against their crimes. But even when I was hearing the gunfire on the recordings, I thought there was one little segment in there. I thought that sounds like two different weapons. So it could be two different calibers, but even if it weren't, it could be just two different locations. So what are you thinking about this? Because several people have said, I don't think so, and I don't.
John, to be honest, this is one of those stories that I've had a really hard time even wanting to look into. I had some friends who were actually in Las Vegas that evening, and my first reactions on Monday morning when I was driving into work was, I got to get in touch with these guys who had been hiking in Utah. Then they decided to all converge in Vegas because it was easier to fly out of Vegas than it was Salt Lake City. And hearing the story of, they were staying about a mile away from Mandalay Bay on the Strip, and they were in a bar. They had just gotten into town and they were drinking at the bar. And all of a sudden they look out and they see people speed walking all in a direction opposite from where the shooting was happening. They're like, wait, what's going on? Then all of a sudden they see people running, sprinting. And people are coming in the bar just hysterical, saying active shooter, active shooter, active shooter. The security guard at the bar where they were, if you've ever been to Vegas, there are cameras everywhere. One thing, cameras all over the place. So, if you go to Vegas and you think you're going to be able to cheat the casino, hey, guess what? They're going to have you on film the moment you walk into the casino. Hey, and the moment you walk into the airport there in Vegas, they're going to have you on film. They're going to know who you are, and they're going to be able to have a lot of intelligence on who you are, especially if you're a big gambler, et cetera, et cetera. But my point is this. There was so much misinformation. There still is so much misinformation. And you're right. It is so odd when you look at this gentleman and you see his resume, the fact that, hey, he is a pilot. I actually started a private pilot's license. That's a lot of work to go to be a pilot. A lot of psychological evaluations and whatnot go into your license. It is such a strange story. But to me, John, and to your listeners, I think the most interesting aspect about this mass shooting has been how quickly the left has been able to bring up, let's go after all guns now, when just last week, if you remember, there was a black immigrant who we know now it was a racial attack on white churchgoers in Tennessee. We know this without a shadow of a doubt. He had literature that this was a response to the Dylan Roof incident in Charleston, and it was only because a white guy had a gun that wasn't a massacre. No one cares about that story. That story is completely out of people's minds, John, the church shooting in Tennessee, because it was a racial attack where it didn't fit the narrative. It was a black guy going and opening fire on white churchgoers. Now, in this case, the left, we saw it last night. WND is reporting on how all the late night news shows, the comedy shows, Jimmy Kimmel, and these other would-be actors, all they were railing against the Second Amendment and calling the NRA members, of which I am a member, terrorists, the real terrorists.
Michael, I'm a lifetime member of the NRA, and it is, wow, what's going on with my camera? This is really strange. I look like the first episode of The Outer Limits. Wow, I think we're going to go back to you. That is not a good look for me. A woman came on to Rush Limbaugh's program yesterday. Did you happen to hear that when Rush summed it up? He said, so you're saying that if you live in the South, you like country music, and you're conservative, then you're just bad medicine. She goes, yes, that's exactly how I see it. This is the kind of insanity. This is the kind of dangerous insanity. Look, I don't like to have a guest on, Michael, and then start hopping off because I can make them sort of complicit in the jackpot I've created. But I'm telling you, these leftists to me constitute I understand that God created everyone. I also understand that he created the devil. I also understand that he created the light and the darkness and good and evil. He, the Lord, does everything. The Lord in all caps. But I got to tell you, the conduct of these people suggests to me that this is the most abject kind of anti-American, here comes the S word, scum. They are dangerous. They are liars. But this is what disturbs me even more. South Africa is the blueprint for what is going to happen here. Monuments are just the beginning. The next week, after the Robert E. Lee statue came down, it was, the national anthem is racist. It's always racist, racist, racist. And how? Well, did we think that they were going to wait like 1 minute to even bother, letting the bodies get cold before the left starts screaming for gun control? And then this disgusting puke, this Charles, my words, not Michael's, this disgusting puke, Charles Pierce, a columnist from Esquire. If Newtown wasn't enough, why would Las Vegas be enough? And there is nothing about this shooting that looks like the way it's being presented. And I got a question for you. Other than the shooting of those school children in Scotland by a bona fide maniac that resulted in virtually all the guns in the UK being picked up.
Correct.
Why do these mass shootings only happen in America? Going back to South Africa, the progressive Marxist collectivists inside the security services, the intelligence services, are the same breed of leftist, collectivist Marxists that have infiltrated and have taken position of leadership in our security services. And it was South African security services that promoted the narrative and arranged all the nonsense that led to this nation being collapsed, and it has been, while the Chinese sneak in quietly, doing everything they can, buying everything. They've already done it in Zimbabwe. Nobody knows about it yet. The intelligence services, the ones that are running the media, not ours, not yours, not WND, and not CTM, but they're running the mainstream media. This is widely known. And they are trying to do the same thing here that they did in South Africa. Why would they want a country that doesn't want to be a part of NATO, a nuclear power? They don't want to be part of the big banking blockchain, if you will. They wanted to be left alone and have their own culture. I mean, they hadn't even invented the wheel there when the Dutch showed up in the 1600s. Why collapse them? Because they needed a proving ground. They needed to show these people, you can't stand up to the New World Order. And as it turns out, they couldn't, because they didn't even know about the New World Order as we do now. So I don't know how you'll react to that, but to me, this looks like an op. This does not look like a mass shooting performed by a single lone nut who brings 23 rifles plus ammo into a hotel room and nobody notices. And it goes on for 72 minutes. Okay, I'll stop now. I'm sorry.
It will be interesting to see what type of pictures we start to see of how he did bring in all this stuff. That's all I'll say on what you're talking about, because I think to me that is the most interesting aspect. What I've read, he was there 5-6 days. He would spend months at a time at hotels because he was a compulsive gambler. I think I read one story where he had stayed at a hotel because he was such a gambler. He had rooms comped to him so often that he would just stay there for weeks at a time. So you have that aspect thrown in. So it will be interesting to see the surveillance pictures that start to get leaked of him coming in, because we know that I've been to Vegas many times, and you just look around, it's like, wow, this probably has more security than Washington, D.C. Your point on South Africa, there's really not much else to say. You're 100% right. They gave their country away so they could participate in the Rugby World Championships. If you've ever seen the movie Invictus, they wanted to be able to partake in the rugby games, and I have, my heart bleeds for the Afrikaner people, because I know that is what's going to happen to Americans. From the historical sense of the word Americans, I think they don't need to read between the lines there. Last thing is, you were talking about the left's reactions and just their vitriol, their hatred coming out. The CBS lawyer, to me, showcases it all when she was actually fired. WND reported on this. She was fired because she came out and said, hey, they were probably all Trump supporters. You know?
Are you kidding me?
No, I had that story printed out, and just give me 1 second. CBS.
Why does this not surprise me in any way? I mean, why is this not shocking? It's disgusting, and I'll react with disgust to the report. But can anybody seriously believe this?
Yeah, she said that she tweeted out that she was not sympathetic at all because country music fans are often Republicans. This is not a lie. This is she was a top lawyer for CBS, and she tweeted out that she had no sympathy because those people at this concert, at this outdoor concert, country music fans are by and large Republicans, so no sympathy. It's those type of tweets we're seeing. And again, in any situation, any shooting, you want to investigate every possible lead to find out what transpired. But to me, the most important reactions are to see what what people say on the left on Twitter, and then the retweets, the likes that those tweets get when you see, wow, we're not a country anymore. There is no unity at all. You would think that people would come together in a situation where Americans were gunned down in mass in a terrible, terrible shooting, and come together and unite and pray and whatnot. But no, that's the exact opposite of what's happening. It's becoming a politicized issue to take our guns and to restrict our freedoms and our rights.
You know, Michael, I like to be mellow guy and speak in a vocal timbre like this one, rather than I'm suppressing the urge to raise the volume a lot, but I don't think people understand. I'm inclined to ask people at this moment, if you are in doubt, I will have to ask you, what's the matter with you? How many examples do you need of the bloodlust that those on the left have? Their desires to visit violence upon anyone, from the president that was not the president of their choosing to people who were gunned down. Did anybody who went to that concert think, I think I'll go out and get shot tonight while I'm looking at Jason Aldean in his smushed down cowboy hat? Nobody thought that. Nobody thought, well, time to die. I'm going to go to the concert because we're going to be murdered there. A bunch of people are going to be murdered there tonight, so I'm going. Nobody thought that. And yet the people on the left can celebrate this. That woman should be more than fired. But I'm not going to say now what should happen. I'll start with driven through the streets is what should happen to these people. But for some reason, Michael, the people on the right, the conservatives, are like, even-handed, let's see some real justice. No lynch mobs, no crazy, no vigilantism, none of that. We have courts of law. We're a nation of laws, not of men, so no, none of that. The left, when they start by saying, well, the Constitution is nothing but just an outdated piece of paper written by a bunch of old white guys, which is not true. The youngest one was 36.
But they were all white.
Yeah, but they were all white. Yeah, that is a problem, isn't it?
No, and going back, one last point, and then I do apologize. I didn't realize my computer wasn't plugged in, so I might lose you at any moment. Another reaction we're seeing on Twitter and on social media is websites like Vox and other places pointing out, oh my gosh, another mass murder by white males. And it is interesting to see the white male bashing that you're seeing. When this guy, again, he's, from everything we know about this guy, he's the most apolitical. He's just kind of a retiree who never cared about anything. He's the type of AARP member who gave the country away because he didn't have any. He didn't care one way or another. He just lived for himself. He watched his retirement fund grow, and then he had nothing to live for. He had no kids. So what did he do? He spent his entire life gambling. That's all he did. And yet the left, we're seeing these reactions. Oh, everyone wants a Muslim ban. Where's the white male ban? I can't tell you how many times I saw that tweet, and it would have thousands of retweets. Thousands.
He was just a guy looking for something easy to catch. What else was he going to do? I have one last question for you, Michael, and that is, first it was Mesquite, Nevada. Then it turned into Mesquite, Texas, and now it's Mesquite, Nevada again. Has anybody actually nailed down where he was actually operating or living, or did they just throw in Texas the same way that Kim Jong-un throws in Austin, Texas as a potential target? They're always talking about Texans and their guns, and they're so right-wing, they're so white and all this, and yet the biggest cities here are all blue. I mean, their hypocrisy seems to know no bounds. But where is this man from?
The articles that I've read, and I've read a lot of the articles on this, I can't watch the videos just from, it's one of those, I don't want to watch people being shot and hear the noises. But every article I've read, it points out that he had multiple houses, and he had a house, I think, 80 miles from Las Vegas. He had one in Reno, but I'm not quite sure that there is a definitive picture yet, because it seemed like he had multiple places in retirement homes, and he traveled around a lot, and we don't have a clear picture on who this guy is yet, except for the fact that his dad was on the FBI's most wanted list. Doesn't seem like he had the greatest relationship with his family. They were just shocked that this happened. But my point is, the guy had a private pilot's license. That tells me a lot about what type of person he is, because if you know anyone who's a pilot, you've got to go through a lot. Yeah, it's not an easy process. And it's just a strange situation all around, and the media seems to have moved on from actually wanting to look into who the shooter is, and now it is all about consolidating around, we've got a chance to go after the guns. And I hope my friends right up the road here on 66 at the NRA are going all in, because this is one of those moments, as horrific as what happened, the more horrifying thing would be if our Second Amendment rights would be impacted by this. Yeah.
Well, God bless you for for the work that you do, and being willing to come on, not only with your real name, but with your face, and talk to us about these things. And I'm looking forward to talking to you again tomorrow.
Hey, to you and your audience, have a good one.
You too, Michael. Michael Thompson, everybody. WND. So what's next? What do we do now? Stay home? Is that what they want? Stay in your homes. Go to your homes. Lock your doors. The police are there to protect you. How did this go on for 72 minutes? Seriously, think about it. I certainly hope you have never been in any kind of a gun fight, but anybody who has been in one will tell you, after 15 minutes, you better call, so you got a problem. Usually, if it goes more than 30 seconds, you've got a problem. And yet, strong police response, but nobody could get up there to where he was. An hour and 12 minutes of shooting. Until I am proven wrong, I'm going to go with this. This was an operation and nothing but conducted, aided, and abetted by the collectivist, Marxist, influenced heads of our own security services. And until I'm shown otherwise, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Okay? We're going to talk with a very interesting man. He's matter of fact, he's a WND writer and ever so much more. He is Joe Kovacs, and I'll tell you all about him in just a minute. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much for your attendance. We urge you to join Caravan to Midnight. Don't just be a spectator. Don't just stay in the middle of the road. Well, I don't know. Yes, you do. You do know. You also know that we are totally member supported. You know that Caravan to Midnight caravanners are the ones that make this program possible. It would not exist without them, because I'll guarantee you, no corporate media outfit is going to pick us up. We are the corporation. We are Caravan to Midnight Incorporated. And we say, no sponsor influence. Do not tell us what we can say, what we can't say. Don't ask us, what's in it for me if I let you run this story? And if there's blowback, will you protect us? Will you shield us? That's not happening with us. We depend on you and the Lord in the reverse order. You got me? So join us. It's inexpensive. Well over 800 programs in archive right now. The biggest question is, what are you waiting for? After you answer the question, do you really want to know? Stand by. That was set to occur. Here's what he posted. Look, I feel bad for some of you on this website, so I'll let you in on a little secret. If you live in Las Vegas or Henderson, stay inside tomorrow. Don't go anywhere where there are large groups of people. Also, if you see 3 black vans parked next to each other, immediately leave the area. Signed, John. Next one. It's called the High Incident Project. They want to make the American public think that places with extremely high security are not safe. They are trying to create more regulations. You will see laws proposed within the next few years to put up more metal detectors and other security devices. Media and politicians will be saying places with lots of police need even more police. I can't guarantee anything will happen tomorrow, but Las Vegas is on their minds. Now, both of those posts occurred on Monday, September 11th. While the poster was ignored at the time, since nothing seemed to occur on the 12th of September, the fact is, John wrote, I can't guarantee anything will happen tomorrow, but Las Vegas is on their minds. It seems a little frightening now. Just a few weeks later, the largest mass shooting in American history occurred at the very location that he named. Even if we consider the idea there could be any truth to such a plot in the first place, it's not unreasonable to believe the organizers could have simply adjusted the schedule by a few weeks. You bet. a.m. to midnight. Wow, what a way to start off our week. Being dark on Monday sometimes can yield a couple of good things. One of them is you let the chaos settle until you can make some rational judgments on the events you have observed and keep the emotional aspect of things to a minimum. Now, while Mark Cuban is talking about running for president, maybe he and Zuckerberg could run the same ticket. The retard ticket, maybe. Let's see, the Democrats have been caught red-handed, along with their Teamster bedfellows, deliberately stacking up their trucks and not delivering the needed supplies in an effort to make Mr. Trump look like he's not handling the crisis in Puerto Rico properly. So these people are so few days and weeks and months, all will be revealed. Let's go back to the article for a minute. Here's another post on September 11. If their plan is successful, state of Nevada will pass a law in the future making all casinos have mandatory metal detectors and backscatter machines. Soon after, a federal law will be passed to put these machines in universities, high schools, federal buildings, you name it. OSI Systems and Chertoff, remember that name? Chertoff? Are the main producers of these machines. Sometime around 2020, now that's not very far off, Chertoff and OSI will merge into a single company. After they merge, the owners will sell off all their stock and make billions in profit. Chertoff has been in contact with Sheldon Adelson. Mr. Adelson will become a huge sponsor of these machines, and he'll be the first to put them in his casinos when the law passes. This is my last message for now. Don't expect me to return anytime soon. He states this project will be done with an endgame goal of passing new laws in Nevada regarding casino security, making pricey new security screening machines mandatory for all guests to be subjected to, with even further and more ambitious plans to follow suit with our schools and other public buildings, if the public goes along with the machines of casinos easily, okay? He also specifically names former head of the Department of Homeland Security, Michael Church, small-minded, petty, cowardly, dishonest. There's a bunch more, but why bother? That'll cover it for now. That they would actually let these people in Puerto Rico suffer so that they can advance their stupid agenda, the loser agenda, the parrot agenda, P-A-R-R-O-T. They just repeat and repeat and repeat, right? In the meantime, here comes the savage slaying of over 50 people with over 500 wounded by a single gunman. Well, I'll tell you right now at the beginning of the program, I think it's a bunch of Bravo Sierra. I think this is an op from top to bottom. And we will get to the bottom of things. We will. And there are some people out there that know damn well we will. This is from Your News Wire. Listen up. This is important. I'm going to try to pronounce the writer's name, Sean Adi Tabatabai. 4chan user warned about Vegas attack on September 11th. 3 weeks ago, on the 16th anniversary of 9/11, a 4chan user predicted the Las Vegas shooting in a series of mysterious posts. The user, who went by the username John, made a series of posts warning users to stay away from large groups of people in and around the Las Vegas Strip area in the coming weeks. Squawker.org reports, stating that he had insider knowledge of what he referred to as a high-incident project. I guess that's HIP for short, because they did not foresee the hurricane. You know, the one Mr. Trump's not handling correctly. The one that, I repeat, the Democrats and their Teamster bedfellows are trying to make worse by restricting distribution of needed supplies to the devastated area. I'm using the word devastated. They're restricting the distribution of those needed things like water, food, batteries, stuff like that, in an effort to make Mr. Trump look as bad as possible. This is what kind of scum the left is. I'm using the word scum. You need to embrace that term. These are not nice people. These are not people who deserve to have some slack cut for them, or to be understanding, or to recognize their point of view. These bastards are nothing but a bunch of murder and trash straight out of hell. Rush Limbaugh brought a woman on his program yesterday. That would be Monday. And allowed her to speak. And Rush responded to her by saying, so you're saying if you live in the South, you like country music, and you're a conservative, you're just bad news. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Well, thank you very much for coming on the program. That's what these idiots think. They think because we want freedom and are willing to be responsible for it, oh, that makes us bad. Because what they want is what? Cops, more cops, militarized police, higher taxes, and an unchecked influx of migrants. This is all planned. And in the next